Okay, so in this first scene, we wanted to just kind of set the stage for Elizabeth's love of music and Aiden's obviously like great ability, and parallel that with the book. So um, we showed Elizabeth. I guess you'll see in the rest of the movie, she's appreciative of art and capable of communication and polite. Those are similarities to the book. And Aiden is music oriented, bored in certain parts, and then loving. And so we wanted to show the point of view as Elizabeth is walking that, excuse me, she's the primary character. So we were kind of following her and she was the beginning shot. We also, the quotes that you'll hear throughout the movie are all in the voiceover. So those are all direct quotes from the book. So we alternated between point of view a little bit just to kind of introduce the scene, has some background soundtrack music, which we thought was important. We wanted to use as little dialogue as possible to emphasize the music more and how much that connected everyone, even though some of the people couldn't speak the same language, and we felt that was very important and kind of tied into the book as well. We wanted to show that the relationships were also driven by music, so that's why we had a little dialogue. We're coming up on Suvin, and when we pass her, we have her sitting in the window with a light coming from outside to make her, frame her right here. So frame her kind of in a silhouette kind of way to make her as the bad guy, so to show that.
Okay, so in this part, Carolyn and I are having a conversation and it sort of introduces our relationship with me as an exchange student and her as my translator, and it kind of shows like Carolyn's love of language and how helpful and supportive she is, as well as my issue with speaking English. And we're actually speaking Tagalog at this point.
Not necessarily correctly.
This was Aiden, and it's funny to note that he wanted to be called Burt Reynolds, but we wanted him to be named Max, so you'll see that in the credits, but that's what he wanted to be named. So here we used angry music to kind of show how Subin's kind of the bad girl at this in the story, which is very funny because Subin's a total sweetheart. And we used, for this, we kind of showed that I was at her beck and call, like very tentative, and I was being used. And that's kind of similar to how Carmen was in the book. But here you can see that we're using the traditional Food Lion skip that lots of people sometimes take when they want to skip school. They go to Food Lion to get food. And it kind of shows that we're the stereotypical bad kids. Like, you know, it's just reinforcing that bad behavior. And I have to say, this was the worst parking job I have ever done. I was completely sideways, but it was just... we have Subin looking really angry, demanding, and like the bad girl.
Yeah, and here we chose to juxtapose Aiden's music with Subin's to make a bigger impact when Subin took over the chorus room. And here, that credit card is actually a Subway gift card. It still had $3 left on it. And to adapt the book to high school scenario, we used the idea of taking control of the choir room instead of taking over an entire house. Because we can't use guns or violence, we simplified it to the all-powerful do not enter sign. You can see here, Katie's putting do not enter sign on the choir room door. And we wanted to depict Kate as kind of being Subin's servant or not willingly a bad girl.
Okay, and so here's Julie's character, my character. In the book, this character is actually like kind of the United Nations representative, so the mediator between the outside world and where the hostages are. And so we, like, my character is very good, trustworthy, proper character, and acts as an intermediate. So we chose to use the classical Mozart sonata, I think, to kind of emphasize how good and proper I am. And so we wanted to show that how it would see how the hostages are being seen from the outside.
Yeah, and then here I start to write down my list of demands to Julie, and I included Subin and Kate can leave the choir room freely whenever, and that portrays the fact that in the novel, the terrorists were afraid of not being able to leave without being killed. And we needed a ridiculous demand that would never be met. In the book, it was that all of Subin's character's friends were released from jail.
So here we kind of show the passage of time, and it kind of shows in the beginning that they weren't really friends. And back there, you might have seen there was a kid in there that was actually a mistake because we were filming while a class was taking place. But in the book, this is actually a span of several months, and we really kind of wanted to show. We kind of sped up the filming, excuse me, to kind of without repeating the boring scenes. And here we wanted to show kind of an awkward development of Elizabeth and Aiden's relationship and show Carolyn as the translator. And it's supposed to be Carolyn translating the two of them flirting, and in reality Aiden was saying really random things and Elizabeth was trying not to laugh, but I think it worked out really well.
No.
Okay, and so here my character re-enters bringing in the food, and so in the book it was really significant and we wanted to use the food as a symbol, as in the beginning the outside world is really worried and wants to support the hostages, so they bring in like food all prepared, and we were too cheap to actually buy pre-prepared photos, so instead I just set the food out in an act of showing that like, here, I have everything for you, it's all served. And so we wanted to really create that.
So in this scene, Aiden finally picks up his guitar again and begins to play, and this is very significant because if you haven't noticed the soundtrack, when Subin and Kate came in, the ambient music completely stopped, and we chose to use a different soundtrack. And Aiden starting to play sort of shows that music will bring them together, even though they're from different backgrounds, like behavior-wise or language-wise. And we choose to use the guitar as a symbol for normal life, and which brings them together.
So after this scene, so we have a voiceover here with a quote talking about how I think it's saving the life of everyone in the room with his playing. So we really wanted to emphasize the importance of music, which was a huge theme in the book. So here we kind of have a montage-y thing, which was similar to the prior montage, but this one is us really getting to know each other. So it was showing kind of the development of the relationships. This is Kate and I. So originally this was a romantic relationship in the book, but we realized that it really didn't need to be, and it was just us bonding over languages and intelligence, and that was kind of something unexpected with the bad girl, so that was really cool. And then we showed Subin here, kind of still isolated. Later we'll kind of show her redemption a little bit. And then we have Elizabeth and Aiden semi-flirting. It's kind of awkward here. We realize that Aiden is talking to her, even though she can't technically understand him. So that's a little bit of a plot hole, but it's all right. So we just have more of us having development.
And this is the scene where Elizabeth invites Subin to play chess. And here, chess is a direct symbol from the book. It is used to break the ice between the general, which is Subin, and Elizabeth's character, Mr. Hosokawa. And in other words, it is meant to join them. We reverse the roles though. In the book, actually, the general approaches Mr. Hosokawa about playing chess.
And so here I'm re-entering, and as I mentioned before I laid out the food very carefully, look, we were concerned about you from the outside. This time, the idea is to just slam the food on the table, showing how impatient the outside world is getting, as well as Subin's frustrating because she won't accept the demands.
So in this scene, we have a quote that shows that all of us inside the room have realized that we will, at some point, we'll no longer be in the same room, and that we'll have to leave, and our former opinions could be altered forever.
Here, Mr. Jones is symbolizing the government who are trying to kind of expel the terrorists, and they succeed. And honestly, Mr. Jones is so sweet that he felt really bad for expelling us. But in the book, Elizabeth's character is killed for defending my character, and that's why she is getting sent back to her home country. And that's kind of our way of showing how the characters were killed.
Then we have the start of the ambient music again, kind of going back to the wordless soundtrack. We have Elizabeth walking away, which is showing... here she's looking back, and that's kind of our way of showing that she's changed by the events. And here we have this epilogue that was it's supposed to feel pretty jolting because in the book, it is very jolting when Jen, who's the translator, or my character, Carolyn, and Aiden actually get married in the book. So it was showing that we're getting together, and that's supposed to be very surprising and very weird.
What should we say?
Yeah, so that is kind of the end, kind of surprising and jolting.
In
Yeah.
general, we had fun.
Yes, and it was
Yes.
super fun to make this film. Here's our kind of funny pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. and-
Aiden was a great sport. Like,
Yes,
he was
quite.
so great to act in our film.
Yeah, and we all had a lot of fun making this and running around. And we hope you enjoyed it.
Yay!
Oh, also in the end, the music credits, there is no music by Hans Zimmer, but we didn't want to fix it after we had finished the film, so that's why.